Yo, what is good? My anime faithful, what is good? So, Copcraft actually was very, very brutal to this vampire, man. Um, we get to see something that supposedly had died in a long, long time ago and supposedly made it out alive. And the other part that's really weird about it is how did this body end up here, like on our side, instead of being still buried on its, in its world? So it seems like this was kind of planned, but at the same time, it also felt like it was just an unfortunate uh, coincidence for this vampire to end up here because she literally viewed it as practically going to hell and having to put up with it. So if that's not a rough, like existence after waking up, I don't know what is. I mean, you wake up in a place where you can't even read the words and writing of, the things that you're seeing or reading about or trying to read about. She pronounced it right after a while, so it kind of shows the testament of how intelligent these creatures are just in general. Um, Other than that, though, like it was rough. Like they went in on her, and it was pretty rough, man. But I like the show a lot just because that whole instance now of them running into this vampire actually made it more apparent that they have some type of backup in the chief of the police, or the detective main guy that was, calling our main character really bad names that she didn't appreciate and stuff like that. Then he goes from that being someone like that to literally someone standing up to for her, and pretty much stating the obvious, which I don't know how these people can't see this, see the intelligence of, having her there compared to just allowing the cops to work on it, seeing how they don't even know how or what is at work here. They could have just thought it was some random occurrence, that happened, and wow, it was unfortunate for those people to, be looking at some body and then it woke up and killed them. Like they would have never believed it. And we would have been nowhere close to getting anywhere. And then instead, we have this girl who knows exactly what it is, how it can fight, and not only how it can fight, she can track it down because of just her being in present, like in the present. So to tell me that she's not worth having around is was pretty like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in a show. Like I understand you don't want someone who's a different like ethnicity or a different race or whatever the case may be for this guy that didn't want this, but if people are dying and it's going to continue to happen even faster without someone like her helping you, then you're more than worse than the problem, in my opinion. Like, you're not willing to look into solutions to get this thing handled, and now everybody in humanity is going to suffer in that town because you felt some type of way about the person you were working with that had more intel, or at least more ways of finding and tracking than you. So why are you working here again? Like, if you don't get out of here. So yeah, that made me kind of mad, but I was really happy to see our guy who pretty much called her an alien at one point stand up to him and, pretty much say like, this is my detective and this is my worker, and if you want to get to her, you got to go through me. But at the same time, it was kind of short-lived because he's like, oh well, I only did that because he's a young kid and he came from like LAPD or something and he wants to act all high and mighty. So, I just wanted to show him what's up. Like, I was like, wait a minute. You just did it. So, because she's part of your team and part of your side, you didn't want to, look like you don't defend your own or something. Like, I don't know. He's definitely got his own weird motives for doing things, and that's okay as long as he's on our side, right? But yeah, this show, man, it's getting good, and it's already started out good, but at the same time, it's getting good in the grand scheme of bringing things from the other world, elaborating on it, and then also showing the world of the Earth and just like what we've been dealing with in the past, and in the present can get much worse than we ever, like actually experience. And that was a cool way of showing it. Like, hey, these guys are going to be ridiculously tough, and if you can't handle it, you might just get body. Like, you might just be on the road, and a vampire lands on your truck and absolutely crushes you, goes inside, and then drinks your fluids. Like, that's just something that could happen now in this show. Like, that that's crazy. Not to mention the fact that they're like it's always turns into a detective like case, like they're always going into this situation of like, oh, this is what happened at this scene, and they go into detail of what they believe could happen, what probably did happen, and I don't know. They treat it like a cop show. They don't. It's supernatural, but they're still treating this, as a crime scene, as things that they're trying to solve. So I like that aspect as well. They're staying true to the show, as like the law enforcement side of stuff. But to be fair, this guy is definitely our main character. The guy is not losing it, but he's definitely more of a loose cannon now when it comes down to like vampires, when it comes down to things just in general that can actually take him out, and he has no regulation of like what the heck they are. He turns into a killer. He turns into someone that really wants the end of that, whatever it is that's causing the trouble. And I don't know if that's going to be like a reoccurring thing, like if it's going to be something that the girl isn't really fond of how he's trying to handle stuff. Because you got to remember, all of a sudden she's talked to this vampire who thought she was living in, the worst place possible, where you die and go into the afterlife and get tortured. And that's how she's coming off towards our young character that is, kind like our cop said, are you feeling sympathetic towards her? Like, why are you feeling this way? And he didn't really get to that because it's just not his character. His character is not someone to, oh, I'm gonna cope with you and try to understand your feelings. Nah, he really don't care like that. But if it's gonna mess up with the mission, he might ask the question. But I feel like seeing this end game and seeing how he still handled the situation of trying to absolutely destroy the vampire and not capture her alive, um, kind of told me volumes of what could happen to their partnership if maybe she does see a way to save somebody and he doesn't take that route. But if it wasn't for her, he would already been smashed by the train, and supposedly the vampire fighting him 3 times in a row was absolutely mind blown that he's still alive and called him the hero or the warrior of the prophecy. So uh, knowing that he might be that warrior of the prophecy or whatever, she was willing to sacrifice herself and die just to take him out. So that's pretty big to me. Like, she went through all this stuff running away from these attacks and getting out as quickly as possible to, being completely out of like power, using the guy who we know is pretty evil, who tried to make the bombs or whatever. He sent out a little body that he was controlling, a dead body that he was controlling to try to get her out of there. She uses that dead body to rejuvenate a little bit of power, and all of that power she tried to use it to kill the guy pretty much on the train track by holding him down. So I don't know. I really, really dig this show, but at the same time, there's so much that happens at times that you kind of forget that this is a cop show and that all the stuff that's actually taking place is, you know, supposedly might leave a everlasting impression on this town and this guy's like resume. So I don't know. It feels very interesting the way that they're playing this story, almost like everything that happens in the world, everybody's just kind of accepting of it because of how the elves or whatever, or like the fairies had already transferred over. They're kind of like, oh, a vampire's attacking now? Well, yeah, I mean, we did have other beings from a different world come over, so I guess that does make sense. Like, it doesn't seem like. Well, I guess we can't say that yet. We'll see how the news handles this, like how everybody, if the news does get their hands on this, right? Like, what if they don't even get to have this information to talk about? It might just be one of those cases where the cops keep it under wraps to save the public from being absolutely terrified, So we'll see how it all plays out. I hope you guys are having an awesome day, night, evening, whatever the case may be. I just dropped the Sacred Beast show, so check that out if you haven't already. If you just want to see more content from me, and then also, if you're watching this, I truly, truly appreciate you. So thank you so much for that. We're going to probably be getting into some new games and stuff here, so expect some new changes in the background. I got some plans for some games. But yeah, I will definitely be talking to you guys tomorrow if you are sticking around for you with your boy, or if not, just have an awesome one. I really do appreciate any time spent in these videos from you guys that are subs, that aren't subs. It just means the world that you guys watch. So I hope that I can continue to grab your attention. But with all that being said, have an awesome one and peace.